So now we start to see a little bit of code in our declaration of different data types and arrays. Your array is going to need a name. Now be careful, by the way. I give you 3 different examples of names, one word, camel case, soda price, or underscore. This particular class has a coding standard on exactly how you should name your variables and your arrays. I would look back. It changes a lot, by the way. I would look back at the syllabus and to see exactly what the coding standards are going to be. If you do not see them, ask me. I'll be happy to help you. But the name needs to mean something. Notice in the previous page, 2 pages ago, the array was named X. You never name anything X. Very similar to a variable name. It should have some type of meaning to it. I should know what that array is doing. And it's very simple to type up. It's not a big deal. Your size is going to be greater than 0. And if you happen to have extra space in your array, that's okay as long as it's not crazy amount of extra space, but it does happen. Arrays will have a value in each element automatically. Now, the funny part is that your computer actually used that piece of memory. Your array is shoved somewhere on the computer's memory, and it's going to have some other stuff in there previously called, frankly, garbage. That one video game that you were playing and shouldn't have been, it should have been programming, had in it, like Grand Theft Auto. But anyway, it's good to set a value, which I'll show you here in a moment, to your choice as a default, just to make sure that it gets rid of the garbage and make sure it cleans things out. And you'll see a lot of examples of that here in a minute. There are 2 ways of creating an array. There is a stack array or stack array way, and then there's the heap way of doing it. Notice the difference between the 2 codes here. The only real difference between the 2 is, well, we have a type star and or the array name and equals new type. Read over what I've got here for the differences between the 2, but the heap is meant to be for much larger amounts of code, or data. In data structures that I also teach, these data structures are huge. You're holding massive amounts of pieces of data. You would not want to use a stack array because, frankly, that's going to have a very limited resource in your computer, whereas a heap is going to have better management of this, use some other resources for memory. It's going to be able to be good for large amounts of data. So you're going to see me use these off and on, but notice the difference between the 2 and how they're set up. Now, here's the good news. Except for one item. After I've created them, the code for both of them on accessing, getting, and setting values in it are exactly the same. But this one's going to have one thing at the end that we have to be very careful about, so keep an eye on that, just a heads up. One thing I wanted to throw in there is issues in naming. There's nothing wrong with the name of the variable in this case. The bad part is that it's used twice. One is used for an integer, for a simple integer, and the other one is used for a new array. It's very similar like the variables that you had before. You cannot have 2 variables named the same. This is a very simple integer variable, and an array is a variable. This one contains doubles, but the same name, can't do it that way. So you have to change the names between your arrays and variables. Keep track of them, make sure they make sense. Maybe put the word array at the end of the name of your particular variable for an array, but whatever. But you cannot use, even though one's a simple integer and another one's a simple array in this case, you can't use the same name between the 2. So just watch your naming and make sure your naming is clear for your variables, both simple variables and your array variables. So the last part is just showing you examples of what creating these different arrays would look like, or code-wise and look like, I should say. So notice I'm doing a double integer, string, and character. So yes, I can create an array of strings. That'd be fine. We can do that. Integers, but all of them are going to look very similar to this. We're going to have, for right now, the items that are really going to be in there is garbage. I'm going to leave it blank here because I really don't want to throw garbage in there, but it'll start at index 0, 1, and 2, and that's because I set it for a size of 3. Now remember, that's 1, 2, and 3. Even though it starts at 0, that is the size of 3. This particular one would start at 0 and end at index number 12. This would start at index 0, end at 24, and then So I've already told you what the top three are. What's this last one going to look like? Well, it's coming up right now, but you'll notice that it's going to be starting at the index 0 and ends at index number 25. Now, what's the difference between a string and a character? You should know, but if you don't, a string could be one letter, but it could be a whole bunch put together, like my name, or a character is just one letter, that's it. So that's the difference between the two there.